Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to talk about episode 20. 20 episodes in, we have reached the 20s of this season, and we're looking at the Endgame down to the final 6 to talk about it on his final Monday. Mr. Monday, usually, but it's not, anyway, it's all changing, but it's the great Pooya. Pooya, thank you for being here.
I am glad to be here. It is true, it's the final Monday, but it's not the final day. And for that, I am thankful.
Yeah, when will you be here next? So it'll be Mike on Sunday, Chappelle Monday, and then you'll be the next Sunday.
Yeah, I got a bye week, basically.
Oh, I'm so upset. I miss
know,
everyone,
listen,
but I don't get to talk to them.
If you would like to bump one of them, I'm fine with that. Like, they don't got to know. They don't got to know who did it.
Well, I mean, if they listen to this, they'd know. And also, as like the Charlie of the Angels, etc., Professor Utonium, not X, it's up to me. And we have had a lot of that. A lot of people like, who's getting voted out? Will I take Mike through? Make you and Chappelle make fire? We have had a lot of questions because for people who don't know, this is it 2 a week now for 3 weeks. No tomorrow with Mike. Mike goes Sunday, and then it's changed everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be more than happy to share my spot with somebody if they wanted to return the favor. But, you know, it is what it is. We are at the end game. Hard decisions have to be made. Cuts have to be made. And it's true on the island and off the island. I just don't like the fact that it's foregone that you would take Mike and me and Chappelle would have to do fire. Why isn't it more of a question of which one of us would you take to the end?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, based on a listener said then they were right. Just based on like knowing, I think all of us and our various dynamics. I think just based on listening to us and knowing us as human beings, I think that's what made them think that.
Can I ask you a question and then I promise we can talk about Australian Survivor?
Yes, I hope we never get to Australian Survivor. No. What is it?
Okay, so the RHAP drafters, the 6 of us, can you break us down into a tribe of heroes and a tribe of villains?
Why?
Just curious.
Okay, you're a villain. Chappelle's a villain. I guess I'm a villain. Frick. Is it just the 3 of us? Is that it? Is Taryn a villain? Liana and Asia might be the only heroes in the group.
So I asked this because I put this question out at the end of our Pooya and Liana lounge this week. And universally, for the most part,
I know.
It is a breakdown of Asia, myself, and Liana heroes, you, Taryn, Chappelle as villains, but there's also a contingent that think me and Taryn should be swapped. But the other 4 are basically locks. So,
well, that's your Pooya audience that's going to be kind to you, and even then they won't even certify you. Well, and I think maybe we ask my Australian Survivor community if I'm a villain, and I think maybe I'll come out more on top. So we should all get to ask our various audiences about who. It's fine. I'm happy to be.
To be fair, you put yourself in the villain tribe, so I don't know why you put yourself there first.
I'm so mean to myself. I hope people are kinder to me than I am to myself. That's like my general sentiment in life.
New polling in the comments. Let us know. Sound off.
I don't read the comments. DM
I
me.
will tell you when we talk in 2 weeks.
I can't trust you. You're a villain.
That's so rude. Anyway, let's get to the
pot. Me a villain. Your audience. It's fine. Heroes abound, and you're definitely making fire against Chappelle. But anyway, here's where we're at with Australian Survivor, where maybe people should have been more villainous. Is the way and that's what Kristen left saying, right? That she left saying that she should be kinder. I'm like, I don't think you got the point of what the show was meant to be, Kristen. That wasn't what the words meant to be on the out. That you're doing the too much strategizing. I don't agree. I really felt because I firstly have to give flowers to Chappelle, who came in hot on the Sunday night episode about how Kristen, especially, we really agreed should have gone to Rocks, and I think that has been proven by the fact that she was next out and had nowhere to move. And he also said that Zara should switch to the other side. And then he was like, damn, I have to wait a whole day to listen to you and Pooya tell me that I was right. I'm like, I said on the podcast that you were right. I told Chappelle to his face. Anyway, whatever. Another villainous move. But I do agree that clearly this has not gone well for Kristen. And I also have, ideas about how Kristen and Zara could have played this that would have left them in a much better spot. But where do you kind of see how this went in a fairly straightforward vote otherwise?
I mean, I think if we want to take a step back to the moment heard around the world where we thought we were going to go Rocks and then we didn't, I think that the minute it was a deadlock, I think you got to think about you and you alone. And I think for Kristen, because it has to be unanimous. If she's like, I don't want it to be unanimous, you do the draw. If AJ or Miles go, You have a 4 that's locked and now good, and now you have numbers. Good luck. Let's see how the rest of it shakes out. If one of them doesn't go, there is still a other 2 people it could be, right? Like you go, because you can look at it as okay, they have a 2 out of 5 chance, we have a 3 out of 5 chance. But if you look at it as you alone, you have a 1 out of 5 chance of getting rocked out. Otherwise, you're in a decent spot, because if Kate or Morgan go, you're like, oh man, we lost, whatever, I'm out next. No, you're still probably out after Logan. So you still have 1 extra step to go. Whereas here, it was just nothing could be done. The only out was Zara. And I think that it then becomes more so, did Zara make a mistake for Zara or not? Because it was out of Kristen's hands, it was out of Kate's hands, but Morgan, like they had no other way they could go. That was the one person they could pull, especially with Kaylin winning immunity again, and then Miles and AJ being Miles and AJ. So it's a tightrope to walk. I mean, gone are the Titans v Rebel days where we're seeing people jump back and forth every episode. We are fine. We are settled in now, Shannon, and I feel like I can see the end game so clearly.
Yeah, I think firstly on the rocks women heard around the world, I think maybe it wasn't best to market rocks like rocks and then they don't go to rocks. I feel like there was like a disappointment that they set people up. Even in this episode where AJ's like, I get to tick wanting to go to rocks off my bucket list. I'm like, I actually don't think that's how you tick things off bucket list. It's like, I want to go to the moon, but I actually really don't. But anyway, it's not ticked off my bucket list.
Desire to do it good enough.
Yeah,
like
now that I've had the desire to do that thing, there's a completely different bucket list to just want to do things. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Zara is the person you're trying to pull over here, to the point where even yesterday they probably shouldn't have been targeting Zara. Like, yeah, if you can get everyone to try vote out Zara just like as a group, then Zara's your easier target so that it's not Logan. At the point where you're trying to come over the split or maybe go in a rock, which they were never doing. But if they're trying to come over the split, definitely take the shot at AJ. Or if they're going to a 4-4, or take, different for probably for Kristen versus like Kate and Morgan, who are close with AJ. But like take a shot at AJ or Miles and we can work that out between the two of them. We can talk about those targets between the Brawn women and what's best for them. But take that shot. And then if you go to the 4-4, try pull Zara over then at the revote, because I mean, clearly they think Zara is the most amenable. They're going to her here. So even targeting Zara yesterday, yes, you want to pull her. I don't have an issue with who they're trying to pull. I have an issue with how they did it, particularly Kristen and also particularly Zara. I really feel like this is the argument, and Kristen as like the person on the bottom should be like the architect of this, but honestly, Zara should come to it herself. We see them have a conversation about the move, and here's what the pitch I think should be. Because as Miles said, flipping from somewhere in a 4, probably the bottom, but like to the bottom of another 4 where they're clearly just a block of 3 is a sideways move at best. Yeah.
Exactly.
So why do that? Because you're not flipping to the bottom of a 4. If I'm Kristen, I'm saying to Zara, we've targeted each other.
3.
Yeah, well, not 3. Me and you have targeted each other, whatever. Miles targeted you, work with him. It's a fluid game. We both lost our buddies, largely due to each other, actually, in the last 2 rounds. Because she, at that point, Kristen was with Logan. Yeah, exactly. She lost Logan, who'd become her new buddy. Zara had lost Karen. We're each other's buddy. And let's take out AJ now, yes. But that puts me and you in the middle of 2 pairs. We'll have taken out AJ, which will separate from, like, Kate and Morgan will be fully separated from Miles and Kaylin. I mean, look at Miles and Morgan in this tribal council. We'll be in the middle. And then tomorrow, yeah, Kate and Morgan will think we're going to take out Kaylin, probably, if he wins immunity or Miles. No, we're going to go back with your connections to Miles and to Kaylin. And we're going to say, take out Kate. Take out Kate tomorrow. And the reason that makes so much sense is because I don't want to go down to 4 with Kate and Morgan, who are also really good at challenges and a tight pair. Like, is it chess? Yes. At a point, people have to come together on like mutual interest. And that makes so much sense for both Kristen and Zara that I think they both should have had that conversation. It's like, we're going to pendulum this. We have connections on either side, and we're going to take out a Kate or a Kaylin in some order, AJ, then Kate and Kaylin in some order. And then we'll be at a 4 with a depowered Miles and Morgan. Winning move. That's the pitch for me.
I'm not mad at that pitch at all, especially because I think the other thing is I find Zara's what am I looking for? I feel like Zara's just not entertaining for 1 second the idea that AJ should go, because of the connection she has with AJ. But then my thing is, when AJ has a connection with you, but also a connection with Miles, but also a connection with Kate, and then by proxy Morgan, a friend of everybody is a friend to nobody. Yeah, and Kaylin. Like the man he's good with everyone, which means you're at best neutral with him. And also, if you were not really looped in on things until now, the postgraduates, you're 4 out of 4 here. You're at the bottom of this. Getting rid of somebody, severing a bunch of ties is not bad, especially someone like an AJ who does have all these other connections. You take him out, see where the connections really lie. Who's authentically together? Who is terrified now? Who's looking for something different? I think the Kristen thing is a great argument to make as well, because then if you get to a 6 and it is somehow a 3-pair situation, that's not bad for you, because I think you and Kristen arguably are the weaker of the pairs. If you're looking at what everyone is assessing, maybe depends on how they need to be assessing stuff. Because right now, the way I see it, Shannon, we're going to now go through the next couple tribals. Kate, Morgan, goodbye. Then Zara, goodbye. And the final 3, if it is a final 3, is these 3 boys.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that, because I'd love to talk about when the guys should look at turning on each other. Even within that, though, to be fair, even if we think they might turn on each other, because I do think, obviously, there are bigger immunity threats in Kate and Morgan than the guys, but I think the guys are the best jury threats. Like we hear in X interviews, people do really like AJ. AJ has played a phenomenal merge game. This might be, as a final 6, the exact final 6 he would want. The fact that he got to keep Miles, he got to keep Kaylin, both Kate and Morgan, and he has Zara seems to be closer to him than Miles, who's been targeting Zara in the past. Like, genuinely, I think he might be 5 for 5. Yeah. He's like, and that is so, I mean, you'd have to credit that, and people like him. I think Miles has a great story. Kaylin has a lot, he's up against a lot. We can talk about it. People want to sit next to him, and they're underestimating how much he's done. But I still think that the guys might want to sit with each other less than possibly like Kate and Morgan will seem dragged. I think Zara's put people off, but again, that's completely in their hands, and we'll talk about it for the guys. I still think they might want to, at least, because at a point, if they come for each other, they might start getting picked off. Certainly if they come for each other at 7 now or at 6 before 5. So it's in their hands, and they might be like, let's try and push it. And if we leave it too late and we end up sitting next to each other, I'd probably prefer that than coming for each other. We explode this. None of us make it to the end. So there's a lot, again, even as threatening as they are to each other, there's a lot for them to take it to the end together. And again, it's completely in their hands. This would give agency to Kristen and Zara by taking out an AJ who's so connected to everyone. Now, ironically, I actually don't know that Kate and Morgan should do that, because again, it makes them super, super vulnerable and makes them a possible next target. But firstly, they clearly were going to do it. They were targeting AJ. They ended up voting Miles. But I think they were actively voting. So if you can use their desperation at the fact that they don't know if they're the target to make a move that might not be the best for them, then yes, do that. At that point, they're desperate enough, I think, that they can do that. So I do think that for Kate and Morgan, ideally, yes, you want to take out a Miles so that you can keep trying to work with AJ, but shift the emphasis of the relationship so he's more reliant on you. But with, if they want to take out AJ and you can't take out Miles with that, I think that your only options are to actually just take out Miles and then be reliant on Kristen and Zara at that point, or to throw like a Kristen and especially like a Zara under the bus to the guys to still take out like a Kristen or a Zara and then be reliant on AJ. I'm kind of between what would be best for them there, because again, they're still going to be reliant on some connections, either the women or AJ. So maybe they do at that point be like, I don't want to be the target. We can't just let this go where Zara isn't voting with us. So at that point, maybe they were going to, but whether they should vote out AJ, they might just do that at that point. And then this is such a good spot for Kristen and Zara, to the point where I criticize them both for not coming to it. Like if Kristen gave that to Zara, which I kind of doubt, then Zara should definitely do that. But Zara should also be thinking about it for herself, to be like, what's the best way that I can do this where I'm at the bottom of no groups and actually have a new special third thing where I'm in control?
Yeah, it's tough, because here's the thing I will say. I feel like Kristen's played more of a game than the show has showed us. And that's definitely I mean, at the very least, that's the read I have based on what the response has been to her on the show lately. She's definitely seen as more. And now, obviously, could this be a little bit of a, let's decorate her as a threat because I don't want Kate to go? Maybe. That's definitely possible. But I feel like, for me, Kristen almost played a little too like everything's out in the open. Yep, I'm going after AJ. That's who I want. And I think that there wasn't enough tact there, but I definitely do co-sign, I think, what you're saying, which is if you do get a Kristen and Zara to come together, recognize we're at the bottom of our respective sides. We come together, form a new thing, and then we whittle on each side a little bit. That's not a bad direction to go, because as things stand right now, and this is, I'm about to say stuff that we already know, we see. Kalen is well on his way to break records here. I think he very well could set the record because he won his 5th, right?
Yes, and that's
And now
what they
he's
say because
tied.
Brooke is tied. Yeah, Brooke won 1 pre-merge. This is the most post-merge immunity wins in Australian Survivor history, but also Brooke's pre-merge immunity win also counts. So yeah, and he's won 5 of 7 challenges, and we still think he might have been throwing one of them. So that's where we're currently at with him. Yeah,
and we're still at final 6. He still has at least 3 chances to make that record, which I think he will. Miles is about to make a record of his own because he has a 4th idol that he can now play, and if he hits that correctly as well, that's another point. Obviously, I'm saying this as, Zara may not know this or nobody may know this, but then AJ, like you talked about episode 20, Shannon. I had like this reaction of us being in the early episodes and just thinking AJ's cooked. AJ has no shot of doing anything. This whole hostage thing is the same person that's the hostage thing. And now, is he in arguably the best spot to win? It's very possible. But the fact is, all 3 of those boys have very different styles of game and have very different stories to tell at Tribal, which, mind you, would be a very fun Tribal to watch play out. But if I'm Zara, I'm like, I don't want to sit against 2 out of 3 of these, let alone even 1. How do I get rid of them? Because I think that sitting against any of those big flashy, Kalen's not so flashy, but winning immunity is very public. But the other 2 very flashy games that you all know about, how are you going to combat that at Tribal? Like, it's going to be a hard sell. You have 2 options. Either your friends are on the jury, you have people that you've befriended on the jury that will vote for you, or you make sure they're not on the jury to begin with. And I feel like it's hard, because do you think that had Zara flipped and taken out an AJ or taken out a Miles, do you think either of them would have been resentful towards her or bitter towards her? I feel like the gamer that I've met in the 2 of them tells me no, but I've been doing this for 30, 40 days and I was this close to my dream and you took it from me tells me it could happen.
Yeah. That's Survivor. Like at the end of the day, Zara doesn't have the luxury of being like, I don't want to piss off jurors. I mean, to be fair, she probably has. Like Laura was the, mayor of Jury Villa, and they've had no end of issues. I think that socially she's put people off. I mean, if she's putting people off by making good moves to get them out, it's probably the least of her concerns. Like, it's about getting to the end, especially in this cool way where she and Kristen would actually have a lot to talk about next to each other, especially whoever comes up with the move, and may actually want to sit next to each other. If Kristen seemed kind of passive strategically, if Zara's put people off, and if either one of them can try claim the move, they can at least get to a final 3 together and see where that shakes out. Like, there's so much mutual interest for the 2 of them, because I do agree that the guys, I mean, when is Paulie going to be joined by another man in the Jury Villa? It might be, really like a girls' lines at Jury Villa, because the guys have been tearing it up. And you talk about like the 3 different elements of the game. For me, they represent 2 extremes: outwit, outplay, outlast. AJ, outwit. The way he has run this merge as connected to everyone, as we said, I think he might have his top 5 allies with him in the top 6. That is incredible. He has not been targeted in every round, even though he clearly should be. Every week do we come in here and say, take out AJ, but instead they start saying that other people are more threatening, that Karen is so threatening. Karen had no agency throughout the last few episodes. Kristen, she was really strategizing in self-defeating moves. But AJ, who's been running around, somehow they can never get him. He's outwit. Outplay speaks for itself. Someone who's breaking records in the challenges is Kaylin. And outlast, Miles, who was finding, again, record-breaking, the jungle rat, who finds record-breaking idols with idol stealers and saves himself or saves others every time and has the story. That's the 3 of them, and you would never want to sit next to that for me. So if I look at someone like Kristen's game, I think, like if she tries something like that with Zara and Zara blows it up and Kristen goes home, whatever, who cares? You shouldn't even be in the position to make a miraculous pitch like this that I think makes a lot of sense. Like, Kristen's game was sunk. 2 episodes ago when they didn't go with Karen. And at that point, they were on the bottom. And as we've seen how that's gone for Logan and for Kristen. Then she gets to a position where actually they pull over Morgan and Kate, who seem to not understand rocks, and get to a position where Kristen alone can send them to rocks and keep an ally in and upend everything and try and take out, I don't know, on rocks, AJ, Miles, Kate, or Morgan. I don't even know if AJ and Miles would have. They seem to want to go to rocks, but like at the point where Kristen has that much leverage, maybe they do just let Zara go. All of that is wonderful. She shouldn't even been in the position to do that. She doesn't do that. Then she gets to a position here. The game should be lost. She should have nothing, and she still has. I think like a game-winning pitch for Zara. Maybe Zara doesn't do it. Zara should do it. There's so much logic there. She shouldn't even been in the position these last episodes to have outs. She shouldn't take them. I'm very harsh on that because I'm like, I see it. I see it every time. Well, Chappelle saw it, to be fair, yesterday, but I see it today. And I saw it 2 episodes ago. And what happened, Kristen? But ironically, then she's targeted for strategizing. Strategizing what? The Karen thing didn't even work and was bad. What strategy? Where? Why is she the target? And AJ just, dancing around everyone every episode, but he's not the target.
I think there's a little bit of a feeling for me that some of these players are taking it a day at a time, and the most recent update is the thing that matters. So, for example, with Miles, we remember back when they did the swap and Miles was dishing out all the secrets and Zara was like, for the love of God, stop doing this. Like, that's gone. That's forgotten. What's remembered is Miles was willing to go to rocks for me. AJ was willing to go to rocks for me.
2 days ago, he was actively targeting Zara, like even over Karen.
But then was willing to go to rocks, was willing to let Zara have safety. Like, that's what I'm saying, is that I think there's a little bit more of a recency bias thing going on. But at the same time, I feel like, does Zara, like, you're also asking Zara to put aside the idea that these people have put her name down last tribal to get rid of her. It's a hard feeling to be like, okay, so on one hand, it's people who put my name down and were very much hoping I would go home. On the other hand, it's the people that were willing to stick with their vote with me and go to rocks to keep me in the game. It's an easy pitch. Obviously, you want to stick with the people you know. Now, one thing I do remember I wanted to ask you, Shannon, because I rewound it a bunch of times and I couldn't catch it. What did Zara say at the voting confessional? Because I couldn't make out what she was saying. And it was like, well, if only you had da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh. And
I was like, whoa.
She was talking about the she said something about the Spa Award, that she took the wrong people.
Oh my God, the Spa Award?
I know. I agree. The Spa Award every single season. I think it's an overnight reward. It like genuinely there's drama with the Spa Award every single season where people, I mean that was the thing. But you say that she has to then get over the fact that they wrote her name down. Miles was actively targeting Zara more than anyone a day before he was going to rocks for her. And like, yes, at a point, yes, between winning and losing, and the guys were going to rocks for her out of their own self-interest to take out Logan. And
they made it clear to me.
They didn't what?
They made it very clear to me. Like, everything they spoke about with regards to the rocks was, we thought it'd be fun. Like, it wasn't about saving Zara. It was like, forget you. It was just a fun experience, and you just happened to be the name that they wrote down. Whatever. Like, we would have done it if they wrote anybody's name down. That's an argument that should have come up, but didn't.
There's so many things here. Firstly, they just want to take out Logan. I really don't think it was about Zara. If they were going to do it, it was out of them being like, woo, rocks. I mean, it's on AJ's bucket list to even want to go to rocks. So just like the TV moment and Miles and AJ being crazy. Thirdly, were they ever going to rocks? They never even really had to think about it because the girls clearly weren't. So even that was like an empty defense of this like not real threat. They just had better leverage the whole time. So she can't really be swayed by that. And even if she was, you don't win favors like here in Survivor. That's very nice. Thank you for yesterday. And it's like, I got to have a winning game. She's clearly been at the bottom of that 4. And even if she's not at the bottom of that 4, even if he goes to the end with that 4 and they turn on each other and they want to be with her, I wouldn't want to sit next to them. Like, how is that a winning game? I'd rather go with, again, some version of like Kristen. I'd rather sit next to Kristen or Morgan, go into the final 4 with a Miles and a Morgan through this pendulum strategy. There's the game. And there's other threats there. You might take out Morgan at 4 because she's good at the final challenge. You might take out Miles because he has the story. Go to the end with Kristen and Morgan, and then people might want to sit next to her because she's put people off. But she will have an amazing resume because this move I'm coming up with now is wonderful. I would vote for it. I came up with it, but I really like it. I really feel like this was, and we said it yesterday. This was the time. This was the real time, but it wasn't It wasn't done.
Okay. Another point I want to bring up is that
Yes.
AJ, Kaylin, and Miles,
Yes.
none of them have written Zara's name down in the merge phase of this game.
Not
None
for a
of
lack
them.
of trying. Miles was about to. Then Karen blew it
But
up.
doesn't matter. They didn't do it.
They've left
Unlike
Zara out the
if
whole
I think about
time.
going to rocks, I can tick it off my list. If I can think about voting Zara, but I didn't put name to parchment. It doesn't count.
Who cares about any of this? Like, honestly, if I can take it back
Zara.
to a hero and a villain, well, she shouldn't, is the first thing. Let's talk about some of our mutual friends. Marianne and Oma had a much closer, better relationship than Zara's had to the graduates who have left her out, voted out Karen, have at points been actively targeting her for Miles. And Marianne still votes out Oma at the final 6 because by the point that you get to the end game, it's not about who you're close with, it's about who you can beat. It's about who's really threatening to you. That's what the game, like, surely, right? I mean, I know I'm simplifying it because that's why Survivor is beautiful and wonderful. Who can you trust? Who can you beat? Only one person can win. You know, if you're making a move with someone, but then they eventually will have to target you because everyone's going to go home sometime. Was it a bad move? This is all what I love about Survivor. And for sure, that like your emotions bleeding into it is what makes it great, but it's also suboptimal. Zara, like, yes, those guys are not right for you from a final tribal council perspective and from a pure connection and agency perspective. Vote out your friends in the end game. Yes, every time.
While I do understand that, I feel like not everyone thinks the same, obviously. But then also, I just feel like I'm trying to put myself in her shoes. And if I was in the bottom of a 4-person thing, and on the other side there's 3 people, I would feel like I'm on the bottom of both. So why does it matter? But then I would start thinking, I would like to, like, this is how I would approach it. I'd be like, okay, I want to chip away numbers on both ends. I take out one of these boys, then what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Get 2 other people and vote me out? They could do that. But either way, I'm 4th right now. So I might as well risk it to get to 3rd because at least I'm trying to make final tribal. If I see myself mathematically at 4, that means I am 1 tribal away from changing that. 1 decision away, 1 vote away from making it to final 3 if it is a final 3 tribal. So to me, I would want to cut one of the boys and then have, Morgan, Kate, Kristen think I'm on side with them. And if that's convenient to me, I can rock with that. However, are those boys going to then put everything down and come after me? No, probably not, because who are they going to trust? Like me or them? I think you can reel it back in from there. But also, I don't know. We'll find out inevitably, when you do all the deep dives, we'll find out where Zara lied with this. But to me, I can empathize. I can understand both sides because I personally would have thought this is where you do a flip. But also I can understand why you wouldn't want to when the opposition is people who have been repeatedly putting your name out there and trying to kick you out.
I mean, to be fair to Zara, I think she should come up with it herself, but I don't think that the arguments given to her were good because it clearly was a block of 3 that Miles...
It wasn't a good sell.
Yeah, it wasn't. But I mean, there's so many things. Like, Miles accurately is like, you're going from the bottom to the other. And that is what they were offering her, to be fair. Like, to be at the bottom of another 3, which is not what you want. I mean, you want to go into 6 chipping away at that 3 so that they aren't 3 of 6. That's why you take out the guys now, so that they don't come back 3 of 6 where the guys now have all the agency, which they do. But if you feel like you're doing that and then just coming back to the Brawn women having 3 of 6, that's not great either. And also the resume sell, like, make a big move, so bad, especially for people who do have a lot of moves through the game in this very long Australian Survivor game to speak to. So no, that's not the move, but it really is on Kristen being like, I promise you, Kate, tomorrow, or Kaylin. So many interesting options that the 2 of us can do if we realize you're not coming back to, a 3 on one side if you do this with me. It's definitely a 2-2-2 with 2 pairs that are more separated than we are. I mean, Miles and Morgan are fighting at Tribal Castle. Perfect. We'll play them against each other. I mean, it's definitely a hard strategy that our boss, Rob Sestonino, certainly created back in 2003. So it feels like 22 years later, maybe we can look at it. It's very hard to do. Will Wall found that out, that the pendulum strategy is hard. It's much probably easier in theory, but I also think that at a point where your game is, lacking, like, you don't have a lot to lose and you should certainly try it. And that's the thing for me. What did you think about this fight between Morgan and Miles at Tribal Council? Because both times I watched it, it irritated me so much. Both times. Oh my God, it killed me both times.
So real quick, I want to bring up, that's another thing that, like, when that's happening at Tribal, I'm like, maybe people aren't going to be happy with Miles. So if he is at the end with me, I could do something about it. Like I think you could logistically look at AJ and be like, maybe some people were turned off by what he did. Then you see the Miles and you're like, you know what? This starting to look better for me. Anyway,
but you won't
what
get there if they have their way. That's the thing. It's like, especially if they're
True.
not good in front of a jury, even more so, the guys should definitely stay together. Like, if Miles and AJ aren't jury threats, and Kalen in his way hasn't been a jury threat, then actually they should run it down to 3, and they have the capacity to. So actually, then you're even more limited. The women would have more options if the guys are big jury threats to target. So that in itself is actually probably worse if sitting next to them is good for each other, where they have the capacity to do it. Sorry, you were saying.
What bothered you about that confrontation at Tribal? What was it that got you fuming? Remind me and the audience.
Because, Miles is like, they didn't pitch me. And Morgan's like, you didn't pitch me. And he's like, I don't have to pitch you. She's like, well, we're kind of at an impasse now. And he's like, no, we're not. And I'm like, you are in the minority, Morgan. It is not the same thing. And I really think it was probably really killing Miles not to say that in that many words, where she's like, but we didn't pitch each other. It's the same. It's like, it's not, because Miles is in the majority. He won all the power last time when you didn't go to Rocks. And when it was clearly a 4-4, if he wanted to, he could probably take you out today because he is in control. You can't do that. You need to pitch. They weren't nearly desperate enough for people on the bottom, and she didn't seem to understand, like many don't seemingly, leverage and the difference between Miles's position and her position, why it's not the same thing, of why they're not pitching each other today.
Sure. However,
yes,
Miles is the quote unquote jungle rat who was very much said, I've played from the bottom. Miles didn't play from the bottom without also trying to make his own pitches, but also getting invites to do stuff. So for him, if anybody on that beat should understand, it's him. You know what I mean? And I think potentially that is how Morgan could look at it, of like, you're the goddamn jungle rat. You were in the bottom. You were in the minority, and then you were able to get stuff. So I understand the frustration on both ends, because also, what do you want, Morgan? You want to change something? You come to me. Why should I have to do your work for you? Which I understand. But also, if I'm Morgan, I'm like, that's the goddamn jungle rat. You're telling me suddenly he stopped playing. Also, this is on a little bit on AJ and Miles for doing the most for 30 days and then suddenly being like, yeah, we're just not going to do anything. We're just going to go with the easy decision, and you're not going to know what we're going to do. It is uncharacteristic. This is like if you high five someone every day right after work and 5 o'clock hits and you don't get the high five, you're like, what happened here? Something is different. You will feel that because it's almost muscle memory.
Did that happen to you?
No.
Did someone not high five you one day?
No, I don't have a high five sequence with someone where I'm like used to getting that.
Should we do that?
We could. Like, I mean, I am famous for leaving people hanging on a high five for the jokes. So
and you're not a villain. And you're not a villain. You're leaving high fives everywhere.
That's villainy. That's villainy. A cheeky, harmless gambit. I don't think so.
Oh, the evidence is piling up on the villainous act. I mean, yeah.
I have fun.
Anyway. Yeah, villainous fun. Morgan and Kate have less to give, I feel, than Kristen, because it's less good to work with them because they are physical threats who are a pair. And if anything, again, Kristen's whole plan hinges on painting them as targets rather than like long-term workable allies. So I think that there's less there. Again, if they didn't know if they were the target, which they didn't seem to know, maybe it's about trying to really throw Kristen under the bus. To their credit, it is, I think, AJ in many ways protecting them, and there's some agency there, some defensive agency in them getting through, not as the target. Although we'll talk about it, I really think Kate should have been the target here for almost everyone who wasn't AJ in that group. So I just think there's less there. But I mean, if you're trying to pull Zara, like you paint the guys as the big threats that we're saying they might be, I think like that's the biggest thing for me. And maybe like just like, yeah, that they're super tight. I don't know that. And then maybe it's like, we're not super tight with Kristen. Maybe you offer her the 3 that way. Maybe that's like the thing to do. You can't be a 3 though, because then again, that's just as good as the guys. Why would you change? So I think that is an issue. But I'd love to talk about this for the guys, because you said that they stopped doing the most. I mean, AJ was trying. Should we talk about their
He really wanted
plans? He wanted to. He always does. What did you think was better? Miles wants to keep it simple. stonewall them. Actually, Kaylin also really says that. And then later is like, my alliance made me do it. And they also want to vote you out, Kristen. I'm fighting for you. We heard him first say Kristen's name and talk about the stonewalling plan. And that is the game that Kaylin's playing. We can talk about it. And what AJ seems to want to do, which he calls a more social plan, was clearly another different hostage plan. Because what it is that you can't, if you can split, if it's a 6-person alliance, you could try to do an internal kind of quasi split. But you can't put Kate and Morgan on the beta because the beta would be Kate or Morgan. What you would have to do is put one of your numbers and Kate and Morgan on Kristen, who's actually your alpha on the split. You want Kristen to go home. Then put, say, the 3 guys on, say, well, they said they'd give her the wrong name, but say they're saying Kate, they'd actually put it on Morgan. Then you go to them and you say, you vote with us to split on Kristen, and it'll be a 3-3-1. We'll vote out Kristen. If you don't do it and you vote for, say, AJ or whatever with Kristen, then it'll be a 3-3-1 and you'll go home. So it's again a hostage plan where he's targeting in different ways both of them, splitting on them, but he thinks it's more social because he's working with them. To me, this is very threatening and a clear hostage plan again. So he thinks that's the social plan. Those are the 2 plans we were given. Which one did you like more?
Keep it simple, stupid. I 100% think that the right call was to just keep it simple, because you're at the final 7. Every person on this beach that is not at final tribal council will be sitting on the jury. And doing all of this just to vote out Kristen is ridiculous. I'm sorry. It just is. This is not you bringing people in on a plan. This is you saying, I'm going to bury Kristen. You can either grab a shovel apiece and put some dirt on top, or I'll do it anyway. Okay, then do it anyway. Why do you need me? I would hate this. I would feel like stuff like this would make me feel like I don't matter more than you're not willing to work with me or listen to me. This is like demeaning.
This is so much less social. It's concerning to me that AJ thinks that this is a social thing to do. Bring them in on a plan where they're one of the targets in the plan, and it's like they're being threatened against their will.
I know I do a lot of analogies, so I'm going to do another one.
Love it.
If you are inviting me to your lunch, but you are eating and I'm not going to eat, then don't invite me.
Don't invite me. But who would ever invite? Who would do?
AJ would be like, hey, you wanna come over for some Hungry Jacks? I'd be like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm getting myself a Whopper and nuggets, and you watch. No, I don't want that. Okay, you could have the fries at the bottom of the bag. No, I want a meal.
Did this happen to you? Is Liana doing this to you? Is she a villain?
No. Why do you think the analogies have happened to me?
I don't know why come out of my head. Such random analogy. Like, are you okay?
I have a creative mind at 1 a.m. Just let me cook.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're okay. This sounds really sad. If you're being invited to meals and not getting high fives, like, I just want to make sure you're getting the Whopper that you deserve.
I have had a Whopper this weekend. I'm great.
I had 2 burgers this weekend. It was that kind of.
There we go. There we go. We love that.
Yeah, 2 veggie, the best of the veggie burgers. It's mostly just cheese. But okay, were we before cheese? Why do we always get into food? Why do I always leave the podcast with you so hungry? What is happening with that?
Hey, sorry. Listen, it happens. It's a hazard of the analogy business, and a lot of my analogy is food-based, unfortunately.
You can see that. Maybe it's just the hunger that's sleeping in. But I really feel like, AJ's plan is way less social, which actually, okay, objectively, I agree. Like, with taking out all agendas, like, I would keep it simple, especially because, as Miles says, he and AJ know where the idol is, and the odds of Kristen having an idol, even though she had one before, but circumstances helped her get that idol. Having an idol, low. Kate and Morgan playing one on Kristen, they won't. Even though at that point, if they're really with her, they probably should to get it down to like a 3-3, but they're all unlikely to have the idol that Miles has in his back pocket as usual. So yes, objectively, you keep it simple. I do think that for actually everyone else, Miles, Kaylin, and Zara, this, like, AJ's plan is better because Morgan might go, which would be better, and because it should piss them off, and like fracture a relation between AJ, Kate, and Morgan, which is also good. Like, I think trying to fracture the AJ, Kate, and Morgan relationship is a good thing for everyone. Like, AJ should keep it simple. AJ shouldn't piss off his possible options and allies, and he shouldn't allow Morgan to maybe go. He should just, he's aligned with everyone else in the game, so he should be definitely taking a straight shot at Kristen. For everyone else, I think that they should allow this to happen just about it cutting, maybe cutting a Morgan and separating that relationship. And more than that, I really think that Kate is the target here for them over Kristen. Like, AJ keeping the options, great. For if you're like a Miles, for example, Split those options from AJ. Why should he have the fallback plan? Look how he's trying to entertain it even through this whole episode. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. So maybe they don't want to rock the boat with AJ and maybe have him flip. But he also, I mean, yeah, because AJ, to be fair, that shows the power. He has options where it's like, if you aren't giving him the name he wants in Kristen, maybe he does go to Kate and Morgan. Maybe that's his path to the end. And honestly, it probably is a very viable path to him. That's how many options that he has. But I think that if you can push it and you're like, you're his actual priority in Kaylin and Miles, and he has a good, road that way. If you can try and take out a Kate and cut that off, I think that's a lot better for everyone in that alliance who's not AJ.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to, and I've watched it already, but I'd have to watch it back to be like, yeah, at what point did we decide Kristen was the best call here when that is a pair?
Saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't understand because
I don't get it.
I think anybody with a pair of eyes can see that Kate is the glue between Morgan and Kristen, and Kate is the bridge to AJ. So why not just get rid of Kate? Sever that tie completely. I don't know. I feel like that would have been the most obvious thing. But I think the other part, again, should be they should clock that, AJ's getting everything he wants, like more often than not. Because again, the whole I think to AJ, the reason he thought this was a social plan is because he's roping in Kate and Morgan into it and giving them something to do. Whereas the option otherwise is, oh, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. And I don't think he doesn't seem like he wants to say no. He wasn't going to reject anything. But I think this is even better than that because you didn't vote them. You can argue that you didn't vote them. You pushed it to Kristen is how you want to frame it. That's fine. And you didn't make anyone feel stupid. So
yeah. 100%. Coming back and being like, I made sure it wasn't you. That's our alliance, right? I mean, that they were going to target Kaylin and then they were going to target AJ. I was surprised that AJ would even be a target for them because I definitely think that, again, the women shouldn't be taking out AJ. I think that Kate and Morgan should definitely try to take out Miles, who apparently Zara is better with, as we've seen Miles has targeted Zara before. So definitely they shouldn't have been giving up AJ the same way he wasn't giving them up. I think coming back to camp and being like, I really indicated to you that it wasn't you, and it wasn't, and you're welcome. And that's our relationship is definitely better than looping them into a plan where they're both at times stated as different targets. But yeah, I really strongly feel like that Kate should be the target here. I mean, we talk about food, AJ has been allowed to have his cake and eat it through this entire merge. He has had so much cake. He must feel genuinely ill because he's just been able to get whatever he wants. And maybe that is the thing. Maybe you go to AJ and say, Kate, and he says, I don't want that. And you think, okay, let's not upset AJ. But the thing is, we do hear Kaylin say, I want Kristen from the perspective of just achieve a threat. What strategic threat? Every move has only buried her further into the hole. And also, she doesn't have the pair that Kate and Morgan has. She doesn't have the relationships across the aisle to AJ, as you've stated, all of those things that are threatening. And they're all very physically threatening. So I just think that's the wrong target. But it was great for AJ. As every episode in the last few episodes, I feel like we can say that has been true.
It's, again, this is a person whose game I did not expect to ever in any world yield dividends. And here it is, final 6 on the brink of a final tribal potentially. And I'm gobsmacked. This had no business working, Shannon.
Yeah.
But everything he's wanted has worked. The only thing he's wanted so bad that he hasn't gotten is an idol that Miles keeps getting. Actually, he did have an idol at one point. He did, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't even know. When did he find that? He found that at Brains Beach. He played it when Paulie went. And it didn't actually even end up protecting majority because Paulie didn't vote for him. But Miles is at every stage actually protected the person going home. Miles is out last. It works perfectly. I love when something fits in like that perfectly. But considering AJ gets everything he wants and he's looking forward probably at his future plans, do the guys turn on each other? What is the end game for these 3 guys that are in control for you?
So I think that all 3 of the guys, at least up until this point, I think all 3 of the guys think they're going to beat the other 2 easy. I do think so. I think Miles looks at the game he's played. He's played from the bottom. He's played from the top. He's played side by side with AJ, so he can take some of the credit there. But he's also had the big idol moves that no one else has had. No one else has been able to claim and cannot claim. And then if he correctly plays a 4th one, no one has ever done that. So I think Miles thinks he's got that. I think AJ, going all the way back from when he started taking hostages, feels like he's had all these alliances, these allies. No one's voted him out. He's pushing the names out. He's the one in the front, and he's controlled a lot of this game. I was willing to go to rocks. The other side wasn't. I got who I wanted out in Logan. Stuff like that. I think AJ definitely has the hubris to think he's got it. I think from early doors, Kalen has shown that I know what I'm doing and I'm going to be able to explain all of it at the end. I think Kalen thinks and fancies his odds of explaining how he got there and what he's been doing on the low. Because typically, a player that's playing the game Kalen's playing might start thinking, okay, I like what I'm doing. I think I can explain, but I can't win against XYZ person. But I think Kalen so clearly is like, I don't care. Let's go to the end. Let's just go to the end. I think I can do it. So I think because all of them really back each other is why I don't see them turning. We could have seen a world where if Miles didn't tell AJ about the idol and then played the idol, AJ could be like, wow, okay, he got another thing on me and he didn't share with me. I want him out. But I think they're so closely knit, Shannon, that I just don't see it. But I think there's validity to each of them to turn on each other. I really do. But with the exit of Kristen and now being with a Kate and Morgan and your Miles and you and Morgan had this argument at Tribal and Kate is tight with AJ, I don't think you can see room to wiggle there. I don't think you see room to wiggle at all.
Yeah. And they're all so well defended with their various superpowers, which is like AJ's going to have the most connections. You know, even, like, I want him to keep like a Kate through to a 5. And even if he doesn't, it feels like he's closer with Morgan and even with Zara. I mean, at the point where Kristen is gone again, like he's literally the best connected seemingly to everyone. So that'll help him at 5. Kaylin's the odds on favorites to win immunity at 5 and at every challenge. And Miles probably will still have his idol through to 5. So he's going to be immune too. So even if they come for each other, again, in their very specific superpowered ways, they are all safe probably there where they just have a lot of control. So I definitely wouldn't, again, I wouldn't come for each other before then. Even with Miles having an idol that'll make him safe through to 5, again, I would rather, if I'm AJ, even knowing that, maybe sit next to Miles and risk that possibly if you can't get rid of him at like a 4 or a 3, even if he has a good story. Then yeah, take out like a Miles at 6 and then risk that, you know, Zara does flip over to Kate and Morgan to take out the guys. Like, I think you really need to keep protecting those numbers lest you all get like taken out one at like, you know, in a row through like 6, 5, and 4 and not even make it to the final 3. And I think that does lend credence. We talked about it yesterday with Chappelle about Miles telling AJ his idol. I think it lends credence to him doing that because if you look at it, it doesn't really seem like AJ should target Miles until he's immune anyway at 5 with the idol that he has to play. So seemingly like he shouldn't really come for him before. And if you can try and like assess that logic, which Miles would be doing and assessing the relationship, I think he's safe to do it because yeah, I mean, AJ would have to know that, blow it up at 6, and I don't think that would be in his best interest. So I think he was safe to tell him. And I also think if you're going to the end together, and if that's like the risk that you get to the end together, while you're talking about how they all have reasons that they think they can win, they also have reasons that they think everyone else of the 3 can lose. You know, Kalen, they're saying he can't read at Jury Villa, and he has played that up, and we can talk about Kalen. So they think they can beat Kalen. Miles, you know, you could exploit the fact that he's been on the bottom. If you're AJ, he's been targeted, you've had the control, and AJ, you know, has had hostage plans and pissed people off. So as much as there's like, they've all had games of extremes. So as much as they have things they think they can speak to, the others probably have things they think they can speak to exploit in each other. And that's why they'll probably keep going to the end together. And that's why you wouldn't let him, surely. But unfortunately, that has happened for everyone else.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
But I have a feeling maybe I just keep it until we Chizzy point it up.
Okay. Is it about Kalen? Because I wanted to talk about Kalen, but I'm happy to otherwise get to the Chizzy points.
It's about the 3 boys, and it's me asking your opinion on something.
Okay. Well, yeah. Do you want to get to the Chizzy? We can talk about Kalen then as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I wasn't ready for it, but I'm now scrambling to get the music.
Well, why'd you ask me if I want to do that?
Take it away, Jacob. Take it away. See, MC Khaled did it.
1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It's getting kind of chizzy. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Chizzy? Yeah. Do you want to ask a question now during the Chizzy? I'm so impatient.
Yeah.
I just want to get to your question. Yeah.
If the 3 guys are our final 3, who would you want to win of those 3?
Well, this is interesting because I really like all of the guys, and I I like a lot of people in this season. I'm also like, you know, devastated about looking like at the jury and like the boot order, especially like taking out like Paulie and a lot of the Coven members that I've really enjoyed. It's hard because I really love this group of guys, and I feel like if you don't, the season must be hard to get through. And I know that they've been polarizing. Like I've always enjoyed the Miles and AJ duo, who at this point have like an egregious edit. And I say that as a fan, right? Like the fact that they have all of the content from the final 7 onwards, that it was, I mean, even the fact that it was just them and Logan, while the first jurors were taken out as people with a large edit, then Logan gets taken out. Like now at the final 6 from 7, it was completely egregious. And that's, I think, taken a lot of the like sizzle out of the end game, because had Kate been built up, had Kaylin been built up, had Kristen been more built up as well, I think we would have got kind of a lot more there. And especially like for Kate and Kaylin, who I really think like here are in this final 6 and could be power players and have been through the merge power players. I feel like we should have had that. So it's hard for me because I really like all of them. I mean, I think I would vote for AJ. That's a game that I really respect, because I think his merge game has been phenomenal. Like when I see the way that other people are being targeted for having control, quote unquote control, when they've been on the bottom and AJ hasn't, it honestly reminds me, and this is not saying in general, just saying this one thing reminds me of Kim Spradlin, because that would always happen. Like this person's so good at this and like they're second best to Kim, so they've got to go. When Kim was the best at everything and no one ever targeted her, like that's a game I would vote for. I love Miles' story. I've really enjoyed Kaylin and what he's brought to it as well. I really hate to fence it. I would vote for AJ, but I would enjoy, honestly, any of them as winners. What about you?
I like that you said you're not fence sitting, but you still made a definitive pick of the 3, but you're happy with all, because I think that's kind of the same feeling I have. I feel like I would lean Miles of the 3, which is tough because I think Kaylin is I love an underrated social game, and that's the vibe I get. But then maybe for me, the fact that Kaylin stays being immune is what knocks him for me personally. But also, I would make the argument that the dude tied the record and no one's really looking at him still. So that is a testament to how he's been able to keep his threat level low while still winning everything. But I think Miles, I think for me, somebody who doesn't need an idol to play, still finds the idols, figures out correctly when to use idols, but then also to not only use them and stay safe, but catapult himself up and over. I think playing, like the fact that this man has played a roller coaster game of from the bottom to the top, then the bottom to the top, that's amazing. I think that's huge. And my biggest worry was the way he interacted this episode with Morgan. I have a feeling
so
that
much of that was on Morgan, though.
That's, I mean, listen, the reality is the world we're talking about, he's the one on the stand, not Morgan.
Yeah,
Morgan's in the jury. So he's going to have to deal with how to respond. Exactly.
Yeah. Can you, literally, they're talking about analogies. That would be like if Morgan is in the jury and she's like, pitch to me, Miles. And he's like, but you didn't pitch to me. You're a juror. It's different. And that is exactly the point I'm trying to make with why Morgan was wrong in this tribal council.
Yeah. So where's your 3-2-1?
Oh, but I also wanted to say, just but like, so yeah, in terms of it, because I think that Miles has a better story. I mean, Miles winning from where he was and how awful everyone's been to him is the best possible story. I still think AJ has a great story. I mean, again, coming from where he was to the merge game that he's had. On story, I vote for Miles, and story is very important to a lot of people. I think on game, again, I vote for AJ. Miles has still had a great game. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think Miles is currently winning the Chizzy. I'm about to give 3 Chizzy points to AJ, but yeah, I mean, Miles has had a great game. It's been flashy. I think that he's had like more exciting individual wins, while AJ's had like blanket control. But we also have heard about how much better the PD move has been and how important that was to creating and asserting control and the right amount of numbers, 6 through 12 into 11, a target who was more pivotal than we thought in PD. So he's also had control with AJ the whole time. His game is great. The bars are high when I'm like, Miles has a better story. AJ has a better game. They've run circles around the edit clearly and around the game for a lot of it. Kaylin too has not been in the edit, but I think has done something so interesting where it's worked too well about, you know, like what he's doing. And I mean, we see to extremes. Like he says it in the tribal council. He's like, you know, I've always said I wouldn't lie in this game. We see him lie multiple times in this very episode, or every episode. Even we're not even seeing a lot of Kaylin. We know he's lying his ass off. So he's doing a lot. I don't know if he has time to pull it back, but I think it's really interesting. I think for some people, he might break an immunity record. If he gets to the end, he quite probably will. That means a lot to some people, especially maybe Olympians on juries, you know? So They all have a lot. That's why I'm saying they're outwit, outplay, outlast. I think that if you can see kind of the skill in that, I think that that's enjoyable. I think a lot of people are probably tired, and certainly when it's been shoved down our throat without other people getting their due, the Miles and AJ show, some people don't like that. I've enjoyed them. I definitely wish that other people got more, and it was more, you know, consistent, or at least, you know, they were more versatile in those other options. And again, I say that as a fan. For people who don't like Miles and AJ, they probably aren't watching anymore. I don't know that they're listening to this radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Carr and Logan back to back was a heartbreaker for a lot of us. So I definitely understand people who are like,
To the
I'm
Logan
done.
boot. Yeah.
I'm
Because I
happy I
was so
wasn't here.
sad.
I would have been
Yeah.
devoed. I would have been so devastated. So I'm fine
Yeah.
that Chappelle took it over. But
Yeah.
I think that one thing that's fascinating to me, especially with like AJ, he definitely plays this game like he is the hero of the story, right? Like he's the main character. He definitely plays with main character energy. But I think when you think about all three of them sitting there, you can very validly say that I think everybody on the jury can argue, yeah, this person was willing to work with me, or this person approached me, this person tried. I think none of them played stubborn in that I will not talk and will play a game with this person. The fluidity was there, which I think is huge for the end game. That's why the tiebreaker for the who gets the votes could come down to just basic interactions, niceties. That could come in handy big time. I will spoil this and say the three boys are getting the cheesy points from me, but until he breaks the record, Kalen is not getting a 3 from me. That's my hint so far.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is what a fun way to do the cheerlead. We do it in little clues to the audience. No, I think I mean, for the game that like AJ has to give to the jury, it might be harder to explain because it's, you know, pure strategy compared to like Miles. Like, you know, Miles will talk about how many votes he's had and survived. He'll talk about how many idols he's, you know, found and played correctly. Kaylin clearly has the physical stats as well. Kaylin is also going to have to speak to obviously a social game and a strategic game that's hard to defend, but it still has those stats. Whereas AJ, like for me, you know, you can find, you know, 4 idols, and it is impressive. But like for AJ, I would be like, I had so many paths to the end, you know, like again, if anyone has any room to move, and if Miles is maybe wrong on telling him about the idol, it's that like he could, if he wants to jump more than any of the guys, he can jump because he has the most options. He could take out Miles next time, maybe before the idol becomes, you know, an auto use at 5, and then still have Cade and Morgan, but they're a threat who's more loyal to each other and they're very physical. That has its drawbacks, but it's an option. He has so many options socially. That is what speaks to me. So 3 points to AJ. Enough of the clues. He has you know, I think that not only does he have continued control, the target is best for him. Taking out Kristen really leaves him in like the best possible group at the 6. And had the others been able to like wrestle away at Kate, then they probably would have got 3 points. But for AJ, I think this is ideal. 2 to Miles. Yeah, he's also continued control. Again, like I still think this is better for him. For AJ, the target, but I think objectively he's right to keep it simple. But I still think AJ's plan is actually, again, better for Miles, and AJ's plan is worse for himself, as I give him 3 points. But it's again, they just running circles around everyone, and he was right in his fight with Morgan. As much as she didn't like it, and it might have contributed to him becoming the name, I'm giving him 2 points. I also think it's like so impressive for AJ that Zara's like, I also want AJ the most. Like, anyway, the 3's clear, the 2 for me, and the 1 to Kaylin. He was getting targeted first before he won immunity, but I don't think it ever could have happened. I don't also agree with him of wanting Kristen and really putting that out there. Yeah, but still, those 3 guys are running the show, so I'm giving him a point. I do really worry that they said everyone wants to sit next to him and how much he has to pull back. But again, that's so much better than everyone else today, so I'm giving him a point.
Kaylin gets my 1 as well. For very similar reasons you said. I think the problem is that I could have seen a world where I give him a 2, but the problem is he is going against AJ and Miles, who predominantly eat up most of the screen time and narrative on any given episode. But I will be giving Miles the 3, and I'll be giving AJ the 2. The reason I flip them, and you know, we talk a lot here about scenarios that should happen, scenarios that should be the choice and not what actually happened. But we also talk about people saying or pushing votes and then the votes not going there, or they don't vote that way anyway. And for me, AJ going out of his way to do the most docks him a point for me, and Miles sticking his guns that no, we're not doing that, gets a bump as well. So that's kind of what breaks the tie for me. I really almost thought about flipping them because of that interaction with Morgan. I just felt like this was the first time ever that I felt like Miles was not coming off charming and was infuriating somebody who could potentially be on the jury. But I think Morgan's still not gone. She's still going back to the beach. They can patch that up if it is even a problem. It might not even be a big deal anyway. But I give Miles the 3. I also think that Miles, no matter how good AJ's spot is, Miles still has another huge bombshell to drop for that jury when that idol comes out of his pocket. And I think that is a flashy moment that will remind people, hey, I'm still doing stuff here. So
yeah, maybe Miles can go back to the beach and explain to Morgan the difference between being in a majority and a minority and why that's different. And try
that sounds appealing. That sounds like it'll gather a jury vote.
Hey, I could tell Miles wanted to say exactly what I was saying, which is you are in the minority anyway. But you
Shannon,
can't.
if you and I were on that beach and we got back and you're like, so let me explain why you should have come to me and not the other way around, I would jump in the water. I'd just be like, listen, I am drowning out the noise right now, Shannon. We cannot see eye to eye. We cannot.
Yeah.
And then I would pick someone else for the spa too. How about that? Boom.
You shouldn't have to explain to people that. You shouldn't. It should be anyway. It's fine. I'm Team Miles on that. You almost docked a point for that, and I'm Team Miles on that.
Hey, I'm Team Miles because I gave him 3. I'm unlike you. You gave him 2, but
Yeah, I think again, it's all about target for me. I mean, even for Kaylin, taking out Kristen, I'm like, we've seen them be close. Like, he should try and have an option. Can people try to keep social options that aren't AJ? Let's just keep feeding AJ his allies. But that's where we're at with the 3 guys running circles, which is probably not what a lot of people want to hear. But that's where we are 20 episodes into the season, Pooya.
Yeah, and a few more left to go before it's done. But I said it last year, Titans vs. Rebels is my favorite Survivor season ever across all franchises. Brain vs. Brawn 2 has brought it. It's been a very fun watch. And there have been some bumpy ones along the way. But of the 20, I think a decent, at least, 16, 17 of them bangers. Which that we are nearing a double U.S. Survivor season in episodes. 17 good is very good.
I think when we look back, there will be the through line of AJ, to a large extent Miles with some dips, Kaylin, largely Kate and Morgan's control. We will see that group, that through line that seemed confusing in the moment and definitely had some we were on a break moments, which was also a theme of this season. Compared to Titans v Rebels, there was no through line. People had real earned losses often. The best of the players still had, their bumps along the road. So I think when we look back at it, we're seeing it kind of shore up here to the control that it's had. But it's very interesting to look at the end game and be like, what is their best bet against at least each other? And what also people should do, sometimes I hated seeing Logan go especially, but sometimes it is cathartic being like, you shouldn't have done that. That's a game losing move, which I did say about Logan and Kristen. And then they were out back to back. And then Chappelle came in so hard about Kristen yesterday. And he was so right. There you have it, Chappelle, by the way. Would a villain give him so much credit? No.
A villain would constantly remind us how much credit she's given so that people give her credit for giving him credit instead of letting his credit shine on its own.
Listen to you thinking about it. And only a villain could think through my thought process to do that. We're just the 3 of us are the villains. I don't know how to tell you this, but we're all here in a group together as the villains. And that's probably, people are wrong about me. I'm probably an anti-hero. I do know that I'm the problem. It's
no, Liana made the same argument that she's an anti-hero, not a villain.
And Liana is?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Liana's hero through and through. Okay, Liana, don't try and take my anti-hero status. Okay, you're just a hero. I'm an anti-hero. Chappelle and Pooya villains. Taran TBD. I do start thinking he's heroic because he's been nice to me. AJ clear hero. It's obvious. Let us know in the comments.
You get marinated so easy, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, anyway, tell the people where to find you, Pooya. Would a villain allow you to give your plugs? No, let's just keep going.
At Pooyaism on socials, twitch.tv/Pooya for the streams. Talking 90 Day Fiancé on podcast, Pooya and Liana Lounge on podcast. And I had a very fun deep dive with Danielle Reyes for the Traders US Season 3. So that was our last Traders podcast for that season now. Until TBD. We'll see. Who knows?
End of an era. Well,
yeah.
almost the end of this era, we know globalsurvivor.com, at Shannon Gates for all the podcasts. I think I'm getting both exit interviews this week, so that'll be out
You're so
hopefully
lucky.
soon. Yeah, I think that it was really great of 10 to offer us both of those, and I will tell Logan that you love her, or yeah,
Hey,
okay, do that.
tell her we're huge fans of her over here.
Yeah, definitely. And then I will have Andy from Survivor 47 on the feedback show. And we're doing 48. I had a really great recap with Matthew Haywood on episode 5 on Survivor Global. We know globalsurvivor.com. That's all of it. I'm always like, if I said everything, I think that's it. At Shannon Gates for all of that. Thank you all for listening. Again, Pooya will not be here next week. Pooya has a bye week next week, but then he's coming in on a Sunday night. It's going to be completely different. We're all going to have to wrap our heads around this new schedule, but no one's getting cut. Would a hero keep everyone? Yes. That's what I did. I'm so benevolent.
Like the Joker. Only a villain would keep reminding us of how much they do. Stop it.
Let us know. Don't. Anyway, be nice. No, it's fine. I don't really mind either way.
No, Shannon doesn't want to know.
Yeah. I don't want to face.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.